Thank you for having me here today. I am honored to be a part of the agenda. First, I want to acknowledge the loss of life during the November 2019 uprising, where 1,500 people were killed by the regime during the 2 days nationwide protests. I also pray for the release and extend my sympathy to the 12,000 arrested in the protests who are languishing in prisons across the country under terrible conditions to include mental and physical torture. I pray and wish the people of Iran freedom. And for those people that are in Iran, I pray you may achieve a democratic republic based on a genuinely secure and free election. May you achieve gender equality and economic prosperity. May you have the freedom to worship according to your faith and space to work and live. I want to speak with you about the various cyber activities of the Iranian regime. In an increasingly interconnected world where nearly all adults have access to robust devices in their pockets, the next frontier of your security isn't just physical, it's digital. As I wrote about in my book, Manipulated, Iran's goal is to drive positive news about its current regime, often manipulating its own people to ensure undying support for the mullah's ideological and international political interests. Although the government's regime's leadership uses social media, the Iranian regime has banned most social media, including Twitter and Facebook. The regime has allocated a large number of people to influence pages on the internet. One example is Wikipedia. This is to spread false, negative information about the opposition and positive communication in favor of the regime. The Iranian regime has also been engaged in creating fake accounts in Twitter and other social media outlets to spread disinformation about the opposition, particularly MEK. The current Iranian regime uses a mix of cyber intrusions, digital manipulation campaigns, and terrorist activities, or threat of such, as their key strategy for maintaining the regime's operational status quo and to improve their standing on the world stage and suppress their citizenry. Iran's regime also hides behind cyber operatives and fake personas. Let's examine how they leverage the cyber domain to maintain control. According to CNN News, the American Herald Tribune lists itself as a genuinely independent online media outlet. However, an in-depth set of investigations by America's big tech companies, including Google, Twitter, and Facebook, indicate the site is actually a mouthpiece for the regime in Iran. The regime of Iran has paid unknowing American reporters to hide behind their credentials and make the operations appear legitimate. The American Herald Tribune stories criticize President Trump, Israel, and overall American foreign policy. But in particular, it has published numerous articles against the MEK, using the regime's talking points to tarnish the image of the opposition and the organization. Additionally, we know from a New York Times report that Iranian hackers hacked into encrypted apps. The evidence indicates the hackers use that access to gather intelligence. We also know that Iran is so emboldened, they are again meddling in the affairs of the United States. The U.S. National Security Agency and Cyber Command found Iranian hackers working for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. They posed as the far-right group Proud Boys and sent intimidating emails to American voters. In summary, Iran is known to block websites and social media networks, track citizens' mobile connectivity, threaten and socially engineer reporters, meddle with access to internet-based encrypted messaging platforms, and restrict speeds or remove access to the internet altogether. The regime scrambles to find ways to ensure they increase their influence over their citizens. That is why the Iranian people and protesters are becoming more creative and technical in using the internet to get their voices heard globally. This is our call to action. For the Iranian people, learn and invest in knowledge and use of circumvention tools or proxies to use, such as Tor, Siphon, Orbit, and Tails. During extreme or complete blackouts, peer-to-peer networks and devices such as Lantern and FireChat may be of assistance to those inside Iran. Practice safe surfing with anonymizers, VPNs, proxies, and more. Please take advantage of the free services available 24 hours a day at accessnow.org. They have a digital security helpline. The world needs to come together and dedicate ourselves to a bold new approach. Step one, we need a comprehensive strategy across countries and the private sector to enable the citizens of Iran to achieve a free Iran. Step two, we need to ensure that the people of Iran can share in real time threats that could have an impact on their anti-regime protests and call for democracy. Step three, we must quickly evaluate the effectiveness of diplomatic measures and set up a threat hunting team that aggressively searches for malicious activity from the Iranian regime, especially those targeting the opposition. Step four, we must act. We can't allow excuses anymore. This is the crisis of our time. If a coalition of international policymakers, technology, and citizens act now, the overall future for the people of Iran and the world will take a more positive and different course. Thank you for having me. I am honored to share these insights, advice, and ideas with you.